Hello everyone, and welcome to Empowering the Conscious Business Evolution Talk with me, Antonina Manev, for some fresh, thought-provoking and liberating conversations about inspiring the sparks of innovation and evolution, and growing a bigger and a wider world of ethically successful and consciously evolving business environment. For those who tune in for the first time, I'm the founder of Visions Inspire Strategic Business Growth Consultancy. As a business strategist, my focus is on turning visions into profitable businesses, be it for startups or established businesses. So in my area of work, evolving the business consciousness is a key element. You can find out more about my inspiring work by visiting the website www.visionsinspire.com. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel or like my Facebook page or connect on LinkedIn with me. Business owners work with me, looking to increase usually their business cash flow and profits and create a secure financial future so they fully enjoy a greater lifestyle and balance. However, along the way, the main obstacle appears to be the uncomfortable mindset of conformity, which accepts limitations in business making and development, or even growing in order to fit in an old custom conventional framework of business making that holds them back, and all that at the expense of their true identity. But how we even start to break up these frames? Well, we'll have to try. In my interviews, video or audio, I will be introducing you to exceptional business leaders, owners, and creators who have reached great success in what they do, not because they worked hard to fit in, but by challenging the status quo and constantly innovating themselves and their businesses, by searching back to their authentic roots to follow the person-business environment connection, and by taking approaches of consciously evolving to align with a higher social and earth value through their creativity, identity, and co-creative forward thinking. So be prepared, all my guests have left valuable tips and inspirational words of wisdom for you to take and do your best to outshine the conventional and grow yourself and business aligned with higher values. All their interviews are playing on the Visions Inspire YouTube podcast channel. Happy listening and happy learning and growing.
Got it. Yeah, it's good that they give you that option now.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Okay, hello and welcome everyone to our new show, Empowering the Conscious Business Evolution. And today I have with me, my guest is Johanna De Ruyter, communication coach, founder of Moving Communication. I think I can just summarize to introduce the viewers to say that, you've been working for over 2 decades as an actor, conductor, trainer, coach and facilitator, delivering communication training, coaching, and presentations programs for a range of clients in the community and corporate sector throughout the Asia Pacific region. So here is everyone. This is Johanna De Ruyter, all the way from Sydney.
That's
Welcome.
it. Thank you. Thanks very much. It's lovely to be here. It's always fascinating, isn't it, to hear one being presented.
It is nice.
That moment of going, oh yes, that's me.
Well, Johanna, I read your bio. I read about you. There is so much you do. How did you come about it?
Yeah.
What happened?
in terms of doing what I do.
Yes.
Well, one thing leads to another really in life, and it certainly has in the way I have lived life. And so, and I don't know, I think you said you saw my presentation, the Fearless Communicators presentation I gave. Yeah, that really was tying together and giving expression to, what brought me to do what I do. And, the threads of those run through different areas of my life. And in terms of me finding my voice in the world and being able to speak that, authentically and with that sense of flow that I'm not holding anything back, and that I'm proud and am passionate about what I do. So there was there's been a number of stories having, grown up within the Catholic Church and the messages of, well, particularly for a woman, of shame and covering up body, and then issues around my own sexuality within that and not feeling comfortable there. And then other dynamics of, my family that actually didn't come into that presentation, but, certainly were playing out. So that was a very beginning seed, really, of what I've ended up doing, which is really all the different threads of what I do, I feel feed into communication and how we communicate. One, as a public speaker, as a group of people, as a team. And now I'm really interested in looking at the idea of systems and how, on a larger cultural plane, that we're communicating as well.
That's interesting.
But the essence really has come from me wanting to find that change within myself. And then over the years, I've just kept continuing to explore how to do that. Yeah, and it's taken me to this fascination with, as I said, that really breadth of change as a culture, how we actually change.
Yeah, but why communication? Why communication is important? Why? Because we do communicate every day. We do communicate every day. But why it is important and how we use communication to become ourselves, truly ourselves. When we were born with this, we were born with ourselves. What happens during life, and why suddenly at a certain time or stage in our lives we need to kind of rediscover?
Yeah. Don't we just? Yeah, well, we do. We most definitely do, because yes, as much as we're born with us, whatever that is, I mean, that's the $1 million question, and which is what I find fascinating about communication. How do we actually express who we are? Because who we are is built within our different contexts and cultural contexts and family contexts and economic contexts and, educational contexts and environment, so there's a lot that goes into creating who we are. So trying to find that sense of authenticity, I find endlessly fascinating how we're able to communicate that, and express that, give expression to that in the world, is I think it's to me, it's been a pursuit and a fascination. And I continue to meet with people along the way who also feel that, let alone we're trying to give expression, we're also trying to do that together and listen and co-create, and that in itself is another fascination, that, just for us to be able to get a sense of what our authentic voice is, what is it, that in itself is lifelong journey, really.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
It is. There are very many layers, and in my journey, that's what I feel like I've been exploring, and you know, well, unlayering or letting things emerge around who I am. Yeah. And exploring that and accepting that. Yeah, there's so many different layers to it. I mean, I found it an endlessly fascinating journey and have met some amazing people along the way.
Well, I'm just reading through the list of things that you offer to help people with. And it's like embodiment, the somatic or body-mind inquiry, develop the ability to harness by listening to our whole selves, not just our thoughts, but the innate intelligence of our bodies, feelings, senses.
Yes.
Martial arts and yoga practices.
Yes. Yeah.
The center, the source, the harness your energy.
Yes. Yes, theater. That's right.
So theater, the ancient body of knowledge that is all about communication of ideas. So you incorporate that as well. Mindfulness, how to relax and be present and aware of self and the world around you.
Yes.
Improvisation, which we said we're gonna do. We're gonna be improvising our conversation because we don't know where we're gonna end up today.
Yes.
But solution-based coaching, results-based coaching, storytelling, emotional intelligence, system awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely they're all through all those threads, through all those topics or contexts. The thread for me is around, as I say, how we communicate. And what I mean by that is how we communicate with ourselves and with life around us, with each other and with life around us. So that is the thread. And we zone in on it, depending on the context of who I'm working with. I'll bring any number of those tools to task to enable us to, find a pathway of clarity and resonance, really, either within ourselves and our life or between people. As I said, I work one-to-one coaching. I work with teams. I've worked facilitating dialogue with, up to anywhere 300 people. So it's and I will pull on all different tools. I call them tools, like storytelling or embodiment or improv, depending on what's happening within that context and what the desired outcomes are and all of those sort of considerations. But I pull on lots of different areas. I mean, I've done a martial arts. I did martial arts for many years. I've got a black belt and a brown belt.
Wow.
A black belt in karate-based self-defense, and a brown belt in ninjutsu.
Wow.
And they were, amazing practices. They're incredible practices. And at the time in my life, they were very grounding and enabled me to step into my body in a different way. They enabled me to, really harness my strength and learn about intention and, intention and direction and moving through something. So, and discipline and focus and so many things.
So empowering yourself to be able to impact the reality around you in a better way.
Yes. And, martial arts also, it particularly for women. And that's where I came to it, because I was, I had traveled quite a lot by myself and, and felt that vulnerability and been attacked a couple of times. I'm a lesbian, and so this was, I studied back in the 80s now.
Oh gosh, that was those were awful times. That
awful times, and there was right. There was a lot of harassment, and so I came to martial arts wanting to be able to defend myself, really. That's where it started, that I just was feeling vulnerable and thought, I need to learn to defend myself. And then I just continued because, I love the discipline of it and the craft of it. And the interesting thing was, once I started studying, and it took I don't know how many months I started, I stopped. I just noticed, I didn't have men following me. Men just didn't even notice me because something had shifted in the energetics of my body. I was embodied and had, harnessing my strength. It was amazing.
Wow.
And I barely, since doing that, I do not get harassed at all. Whereas previous to that, I was. Yeah, amazing. Wow. So, So, I certainly draw on a lot of that practice, particularly around hara, and there's lots of stuff around grounding. So if I'm working with someone who's, got a different, feeling very ungrounded, I'll often bring in some of those practices, and they can come in different ways in terms of grounding them to help their mind, but also their body, their voice, because the voice goes up here, when you're nervous and you're light, everything gets up.
Yes,
How
definitely.
to help ground someone. Some of those martial art practices are great. Breathing into the hara, which is the hara is 3 fingers below your belly button and into the center of your being.
Okay.
You can just feel that now.
Okay.
Just feel that now. Yeah, so you feel that. So just put your hand there, or literally about 3 fingers below your belly button.
Doing it.
And then straight into the center of your being. And let your breath.
I shall stand up so people can see.
Yeah, you can.
That's
stand
my belly button here, somewhere there.
Okay. Yeah, I can stand up too. Here we go. It's a bit harder with Zoom. Yeah, so you just, it's really that center of your belly button, center of your being, sorry. And if you can bring your breath down there rather than up here in our chest, because that's where a lot of our breathing and patterns around breathing center here, because culturally we're always on the go. And, there's a lot of, I would say anxiety in our system because, our larger cultural systems, because we're very competitive and hierarchical. There's a lot going on. And so we can get stuck in breathing up here, which is, it reiterates the fight and flight mechanism, which is adrenaline based and cortisol based. And it's unsustainable, really. That's why people can get quite ill and exhausted. So if we can train ourselves to breathe down here and center that breath, and then largely what will happen is energetically you can center down there too. What do you notice in yourself just making that shift?
I notice calm because I was very, of course, I was nervous before we start. I'm always, because of, I want this to be a great thing. And I was nervous. And speaking with you now, doing this, it actually helps me to ground. So I presume our next couple of minutes will be me being more grounded, and I won't fall asleep. I promise I won't fall asleep.
Yes, see, that's often the fear too, that if you do that, that you'll lose. Yeah, there's that, if you do that, that you'll lose, passion and excitement. And that is a bit of a nuance in terms of shifting your center your center, really, how you're, what is it? How you're, it's an energetic center down there. It's because it does calm everything down. So you do lose a little bit of excitement in that. And some people read that as passion, but actually after a while you can integrate both of, your passion and excitement and still maintain this sense of centering from this place in your body rather than up here.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Yeah, well, that martial arts, that has fed into theatre, because that's the premise. Because, of course, with theatre, we do a lot of work getting our centre down there for our voice.
Yes.
Because you can't have your voice coming from here. So all that practice in martial arts then fed into my theatre practice, because I was very embodied, and a lot of the theatre practice we do is it's about knowing exactly where your body is in space. Because everything you do on stage is being read for communication.
Yes.
So you need to know exactly what you're doing at all times, and at the same time you need to be able to portray someone who's totally in that moment and not aware. So there's
well,
it's an amazing practice.
I did in my youth. When I was a teenager, I used to go to be part of a theatre group in my local town, and I even stretched to become a member of the neighboring town theatre group. So they were competing, but it was interesting because we learned a lot about theatre and performing, and our mentors were making us read a lot about. Well, in those days we were reading Stanislavski, which is one type of perceiving the theatrical performance and reading into it and analyzing. Yes, so that was a period of my life at about 5-6 years when I did that, and I loved it.
You were 5 or 6 years old?
No.
Okay,
for a
right,
period of time. For 5-6 years, I was enjoying those groups, and then I went to uni, and life changed, and all I wanted it was to get married. And
well, there you go. Life does change.
Things, but I have always been aware of the importance to communicate and present yourself with your body, and that was my kind of learning at the time. But I wanted to ask you, we talk about communicators, communication and all this. Can you give me an example of a really bad communicator you have come across? Maybe a leader, maybe a business person, but a really bad communicator.
Yeah, definitely.
Do they come and ask for help, or they just get stuck there and they always remain bad communicators?
Well, sometimes they're made to come and get help.
They're made to come.
Well, yeah, definitely. It depends, but I guess when you say that, the story that comes to my mind is I was working in Hong Kong, and I'd been flown in to work with this team of consultants, high-level consultants in a let's just say a multi-million, huge corporate, basically, that everyone knows that I won't say. Now I'm focused on not saying it.
You can say it.
Anyway, okay, I won't. Anyway,
that's fine.
Anyway, but so I was flown in, and it was usually I was given all this information, but I was, the project manager will fill you with, but there was nothing. All I had was an address to show up to, and I tried to get more information. I couldn't, and so I just showed up to this address, some, office in Hong Kong somewhere, and waited at the door, and finally someone came, and then he took me to the cafe to wait for the rest of the team. And I'm saying to him, well, I'm a trainer, I need to go and set up the room, and we have all these flip charts, and anyway, it took hours for me to be able to get into the room, for the team to come. So it was all very stressful at the beginning. And then the work I was doing was translating the theatre work into what we call presence, and how we connect using our authentic presence. how we connect together authentically by harnessing our authentic presence. And part of it is about drawing on theatre and getting people to be expressive. And so there are certain exercises we do, and I was rolling out these exercises and with the team, and this beautiful young consultant got up and said, I'll do it, because you had to get up in front of the group at some point. Yes, I'll do that. And she gets up and she's expressing herself, and then her leader started laughing at her and said, "That's ridiculous." I mean, she just was crestfallen. I was so shocked. I was, did I actually hear him say that? And I looked at him, and he was leaning back in his seat with his arms closed and just shaking his head saying, "What are you doing?" Now, that was a sign of a bad leader to me. I then had to spend, the rest of the session negotiating between him and his team. So, he was, and he had a model of leadership that was, about making it hard. And why would you show your emotions? And if you're going to tell a story that you've told 100 times, and, don't be weak. And so, and as soon as he left the room, his team would be saying to me, "He's terrible, it's terrible, it's so hard working with him." So that was a sign of not a great leader. He was lacking in empathy. He found it, well, definitely he had a very, what I would call an old model around leadership, which is, and acting training has this old model of, kind of punishing and breaking them down so that the fighter in you emerges, and he was just stubborn and wouldn't listen. We were trying to, communicate with him. I was kind of in the end being the middle person, even though that wasn't really supposed to be my role. So, yeah, I would. But the interesting thing was, I mean, he was obviously good at his job. He was their, manager, and they were a very elite team of consultants. So he was obviously good at something. But in terms of leading a group of people, somewhere, that to me was not great leadership.
Well, I do remember those times because I've got like 20 years in corporate world before I started Visions Inspire, the business growth consultancy. But I do remember the courses in those days, the assertiveness courses for middle management and management staff. Where they take you and they teach you to be assertive and not compassionate and push them. Yes. And that was
when was that, in the 90s? When would that been?
Well, that wasn't a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, really.
And was that more for women, or was it for any?
It was for management, women or men. But don't forget, well, I don't know whether you know, but I became the first female tax manager of one of the top 50s accountancy firms here, and I was the first female tax manager.
Right.
And that was unheard of. And I remember the guys, they were betting that I will flop and I won't last long.
Right.
So they were
interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And I didn't like the culture because of their training of being assertive in a very bad way.
Right.
Which borders with bullying and different techniques they taught them. And I think there is no place anymore for leaders like this. There is no place. The thing is, how do you turn someone who used to be like that into a normal human being and a good communicator and a good leader?
Yes.
In a way where people will follow. What would you do with a material which is that, and then turn it into something useful actually for the today's landscape, business landscape.
Yeah, because the landscape
what do you do?
has
What
changed.
do you have to take them, put them in a prison, and train them there, isolated.
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't agree with that.
No, I'm joking. That was a
bit of their own medicine. No. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that it's kind of an old, well, it is an old model of leadership. That command and control style leadership, which is you wouldn't. I mean, it is fascinating when you look around the world, because it's not like we've really moved past that. We're still kind of in conflict with that style of leadership, trying to work out where that fits, I would say. So, and that's quite complex, because within organizations themselves, they're in a very competitive field. I mean, we live in a capitalist system. It's based on competition. So, you've got an inherent conflict there, or paradox. So, and managing within that is, there's lots to consider, and it's a cultural, depends on the leadership. It depends on the history of the organization, depends on a lot. But it does make me remember, another thing I do that uses theatre is with this practice called playback theatre, where we work with inviting the audience to share stories from their own experience, and there's a team of improvising actors and musician that listen and use improvisation to recreate that story into theatre in the moment.
Wow.
So it's very immediate, it's very spontaneous, and it's like a mirror to that audience. Yeah, it's quite a powerful form of theatre. It's practiced all over the world in all sorts of contexts. But in this particular context, I was working with another big, corporate organisation, well known, and with their, again, high level leadership team. And we had been invited in because there was conflict in the leadership team. They were trying to sort out, and there were when I was conducting, facilitating the session, and I was inviting people to share, and it became apparent everyone was talking about this one person that, is making us hard to work as a team, and they're getting in the way, and they're having to deal with people from this person's team who are upset with this person. And finally I decided I'm going to call this, and I said, can we name who this person is?
Oh my God.
Well, it had come up so many times. I felt like we can't keep circling around this. And because we had been brought in to help this team see themselves and to break through some sort of dynamic around the communication, I took that risk. And I can tell you that felt like an enormous risk when I said that. Yes. Just imagine how you felt. It was electric.
Wow.
It was a mixture of excitement and fear and anticipation and relief all at once. And I can tell you, in terms of my martial art training, that's where I had to breathe deep into my belly and feel my feet on the floor, and, really harness that practice and wait, because there was a silence.
Yes.
And then the person who everyone knew they were talking about said, yeah, all right. So he was it was a he, and he was quite aggressive and about it, being called out, but also he knew it was happening. So what was fascinating about that process is that I could listen to him and let him express himself. I used the theatre form, so the actors and musician, to reflect to him and to the audience what he was experiencing, rather than getting them to talk between themselves, because that would have gone into a fight. So he could just vent and express himself, the actors then capture all different complexities and layers in that. Everyone gets to hear it. So as a team, they were able to move through the heat of that. But what emerged that was interesting was that there was an old style of leadership in which he was the representative still and hanging on. Yeah. And there was the new style, and they'd all come in after him, and he'd been there for a long time, and this is how it was done, and this is how they got things done. So that was just fascinating to really be in the thick and the heat of what it actually means to change a dynamic like that. But by the end of it, it was certainly something had shifted for that organisation. I was exhausted, actually.
Yeah, you will.
I went away
but this is witnessing and being part of something like this, that shift from one slightly to another state of emotional intelligence, maybe, is an amazing moment. And it is for the person, the benefit is the person and their growing awareness of the needs of the new reality and transferring this onto the organization. And that transition is what we see today, what we are seeing more and more today, because they are pushed to the old styles, are pushed to accept the new styles because of the millennial generation who have come into play, and they are now ruling in a way the business world, which I'm so happy about, because finally there is the end. We can see the end of the old restrictive and not authentic traditions in business. Now,
maybe we hope so.
Okay,
it'll be I mean, we don't know, but it's certainly that is what is emerging from from within the cultures, the different cultures. You see it being played out like that story. You see it being played out. You see it being played out. I would say the politics in with around American politics there with Trump, and but then with the West and the East, and I mean that's very broad. Actually, that's a really clumsy way, but it's being played out in many different ways. Yes. I think that real tension of wanting to, really I call it, hierarchical models of organization, and, releasing that into more, not organic is too loose, but, self-organizing is what they call the newest style. That's certainly emerging. We're certainly nowhere near theirs, but more collaborative leadership style rather than, that command and control. And relational, which means, going into relationship more. And that's where it's difficult. It was difficult for him. The only way of relating was by, maintaining his power and his hierarchy and, forcing people to work harder rather than empathizing, like you say, with emotional intelligence, the ability to empathize and understand and listen and draw out what's happening and get the story. And, it takes work. It's a different sort of work.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it is difficult. It
takes time too.
It takes time.
It takes time, it takes work.
And that's why more and more people like you have to come out and help them out, because there is the need now. There is the need. And that's the purpose of our conversation here and that podcast, empowering the conscious business evolution, because as a conscious business, we're turning more and more towards the nature and the connection, the link between us, nature, what we do and how we impact everything around us. And as a business evolution, evolving businesses, not be afraid to move forward and embrace and take new challenges. As a lockdown, who knew? Who was prepared in January 2020 or even December 2020 about what was going to hit us? No one was prepared.
Yeah, that's right.
analysts are now looking back and saying that this is one of the biggest jump, in a way, humanity jump we had to make as people, as individuals, as businesses, as creativity, embracing technology more and more.
Yeah.
And well, thanks to that technology,
isn't that ironic?
I meet you.
Yes, well, that's right. I mean, that's just the paradox.
I will never give this up now.
No,
I will
well,
not
none of
give
us will.
this up.
And this is going to be, in terms of communication, that's what's fascinating too, in terms of what's emerging and how we communicate online and connect as humans, because it does have a, dehumanizing or not dehumanizing. It can disconnect us as much as it can connect us, because there's nothing like being in the room with someone. Yes. And smelling you and seeing your whole room and your dress and your shoes and all of that. That's all information and communication.
And the body language.
So that's all gone, and we've just got these screens. We really have to work really harder to connect.
And to learn to read the body language on screen and translate it so that it makes sense. And about this, I've always said that the younger generation, I mean the generation up to the 30 years old, 20 years old, they have more practice into doing this because they were always on their phones.
Yes, well, that's right.
They could even read their emotions through the text messages, through the emojis and all this, whereas my generation and many people like me around my age, we would always rely on the face-to-face, so that because that's what we practiced, that's what we knew. Look at the whole person and pick up everything, all their the way they wear themselves, the way they move,
the posture, the stand, they sit,
speed of their rhythm of breathing and their voices and all this to make that connection. Now we have transitioned and we have learned to pick up some of those signals through screen.
Yeah, no, it's well, and I would say we're at a learning curve, and we have been since we've had to, it's only been, what has it been?
18 months.
Not long, 18 months or something.
18 months.
That we've had to move in. I mean, this had already, I remember when I was training, we did a bit of virtual work, but it was only a little bit. Most of it was about, in the room, but now we've made this massive shift and we're catching up. But what I keep hearing from people that I find astounding is, people working in the corporate world or, professionally is the amount of meetings that they have to attend online, one after the other. There's no room. Once upon a time you have to travel from maybe one room to another room, so you had that time to decompress, to let things settle, but they're going from one to another. Like, again, I come back to the hara and to breathing. And I encourage people to find a little bit of space. You need a transition. Even if it's, just before you click that join button, take a minute to take a breath in and out and ground. And, we're missing all of that time in between. And those times in between are very important. They're important in, pausing is important in communication, full stop. And that goes out to those moments. Yeah, amazing time where we're learning so much and changing so much.
It is remarkable the times we live. Why? When we help a body to communicate better, the journey of the body, as you describe it, do you see the same going on with that of a business, the journey of the business body. So how do we translate the journey of the body into the journey of the business? And what is it that you are noticing? What is that business is picking up?
Well, I think it's in that field that you're talking about. It in terms of consciousness, it's about an awareness of of the relationships, and the interdependencies between all its moving parts, and how they're all interrelated and responding to each other. And that's, from the individual out to the organization and the different areas of the organization, but then out to the world. How do we bring that awareness and sensitivity to that and listening to that isn't just, we need to get this job done and that's all we do. So it's an outward awareness. As much as it's forward, it's out. It's, to me, it's the, diverge, converge, the rhythm of the ocean, the rhythm of breathing. How do we do that more? That's the movement of creativity as well. It's, converge and ideas and let things in before you converge. But we're trained to converge very quickly. It's like the pausing that I said, like allow a little bit more space.
Allow more space. Allow the pause.
Allow the pause and stay grounded in that. Feel your body in that and listen to its response to that. Because it's like that moment when I was conducting that group. I mean, it was so alive. I could feel all of those things. So it didn't take me by surprise because I was feeling them with them by grounding myself. And, you can say tuning into your gut, your intuition, your feeling sense, your energetic body, all of those levels.
And also to allow to be led by it, because it never fails. Yes. It will never fail you. It will always take you to your authentic place, to your authentic nucleus, if you like.
When you can listen to it.
Listen and follow. Listen and follow.
Very true. And that takes conscious work. Work is harder work. Conscious exploration about shifting attention away from all this thinking that we're always thinking into breathing and being. How do you do that? Start just taking a few breaths from that deeper center within you. Feel your senses. I often tell people just to feel your fingers. Bring awareness to that.
Yes.
Before you jump forward and converge on something, to allow these spaces.
When you said about, sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah.
So when you said about diverging and increasing that converging and increasing that space of awareness and communicating, I very much in my work I have to have those conversations with the businesses and the owners, because around competition, why the fear of competition, and transitioning the notion of competition into co-creation and a world of share. So this is what my focus in my work with the business owners is, because once you're within a state of fear of competition, you can only fight back. If you in a way are given just one tool, a hammer, all you will be doing nails. Hammering nails. But when we empower them, like you with your work and I with my work, to increase that awareness and that transition. This is what the movement of communication, if you like, or the movement of
consciousness,
the conscious business evolution is. So you and
it's awareness.
Yes, it is awareness, and you and I have so much work to do to increase that. And I hope all we are sharing today will help everyone to pick up useful ideas and maybe techniques. And I would love for people to come and find you and speak to you. The more and more people speak to you and come close to your the way you work, through whether it will be through communication, the moving communication, your specialty, or the fearless communicators, or the playback theatre. This all expands and gives us a better chance to survive and evolve as businesses and be more creative, and authentic.
And have less fear, really, because when you move into that center and that gut and give yourself that space, you drop out of this story, because usually the thoughts are fear-based. That's where we get caught up.
And judgment, fear of judgment.
Fear and judgment, all of that, it's all fear-based. When I think about competition, something that comes to me is the wonderful practice from improvisation, is to play with it. To use it as a game, because it is a game. Well, games are all about, there's always a competitive edge. And how do you play with it? How do you bring a sense of play to that competition rather than fear and dread and attack?
But
it's a question.
All I see
what if I saw it as a game rather than I have to win?
Yes, that's a nice flip.
And play the game. It's a game. It's a competitive game.
It is a game.
It's like sport. It's like anything.
And sometimes it makes me sad when I see people locked into that ugly notion of competitiveness, how they behave, how they communicate. So they always behave and communicate from a point of fear, not to be hurt, not to be to lose in business or whatever.
Well, it's a scarcity model. There's always, when you stay within that, if you stay within that way of seeing it, someone's going to lose and someone's going to win. But actually, everyone wins, really. Because what does that mean? Yes, you might lose there, but you're going to win something else. There's always something else emerging and happening. And if you don't, you for whatever reason that didn't work out there, you go there, and then something else is going to emerge here. And it's about seeing that rather than, falling into fear and judgment. And it's a challenge, I agree, and it's a work, but it's not impossible.
It is not impossible. And what I tend to encourage them to explore is the co-creation, even if they see each other as competitors. Meet, see what you can do together better for the world. And I think this is how we are moving towards a world of share, which will be much more productive and protective and caring and thriving, compared to just everyone sitting
winners and losers.
Yes,
instead of winners and losers, ups and downs. I'm up here and you're down there. But it's not sustainable. We're not going to create, the utopia that we want. It hasn't worked, and it's not going to work. I mean, look around. Look at. Go beyond history. Look at Indigenous cultures. They know about thriving. They lived in a thriving world. So I need to finish, I'm afraid.
Yes. Okay. I was going to ask you.
We have to have talk number 2 now.
I just wanted to ask you to tell the listeners where they can find you.
Oh, yes, of
course. Where they can find you. I will,
love to connect.
Of course, I will put a banner with your contact details at the bottom of our conversation, so when people see, they can connect with you. But yes,
connect at LinkedIn. Probably LinkedIn is the best connection at
okay.
Johanna De Ruyter. What is my LinkedIn address? I should know it straight away.
No, just leave it, because when people type in Johanna De Ruyter, they will find
Moving
you.
Communication, Fearless Communicators, Playback Theatre. You'll find me. I'm under Creativity and Communication.
And can you just give one tip of wisdom to our listeners?
Well, my tip of wisdom would be to take that moment in your sentences, in your moment-to-moment meetings, in your day, in your life. Allow some space. We don't have to keep pushing forward. Think outwards. Feel behind you. Let your senses go out laterally, not literally.
Laterally, not literally.
Yeah, and meaning in between the literal senses of things. Yeah, see what emerges, explore, and take the breath. Yeah.
Thank you, Johanna, for being here today and sharing your wisdom and your wonderful experiences. It is so valuable. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A pleasure, Antonina. I've loved it. I love having conversations like this. Yeah, love it.
Good. Thank you. Bye, everyone. From me and
Goodbye.
Johanna De Ruyter. Bye.
Yes, from Sydney, Australia. Love to connect. Reach out with any questions to explore, probing thoughts, insights, and until next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
And that was your inspiration to continue empowering your conscious business evolution today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope our conversations will help you take your own steps toward innovating and evolving as a conscious business by making choices for the benefit of people, communities, and environment. If you have any questions to my guests, I will leave their contact details in the description of this post. If you'd like to come to the show and share your wisdom, you're more than welcome. Please write to me to Antonina@visionsinspire.com. But definitely have a listen to all previous interviews and do subscribe to the Visions Inspire YouTube channel for my next show for more inspiration on being part of our conscious business evolution together. Please give Visions Inspire your like on Facebook and follow on Twitter and Instagram. And you share with others to listen, spread the word, grow the knowledge. That's the spirit of the conscious business evolution. Till next time, from me, Antonina Manev, your business growth strategist, turning visions into profitable businesses, and always here to empower the conscious business evolution. Thank you, and till next time.